I don't care about your dad, Spencer. I only care about Zach and Kelly. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. And if you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Episode 8, The Todd Capsule. Episode 8 of Saved by the Bell Reboot. I know I said that I would not talk about the theme song again, but hearing the classic theme again is like manna from heaven. It's glorious, like angels singing. I just know that unfortunately, because of what this episode's about, we're going to go back to that blood curdling mess that little Yachty made in the next episode. So I just want to all take a moment of silence to just appreciate the classic theme. All right. So for this episode, we are with the original six, well, original five of the six. We don't see Screech on screen, but we do get an idea of where his whereabouts are. So for this episode, the main story is it starts off with AC Slater saying that Valley has finally fallen at the hands of Bayside. Yay, they won a freaking game. So for the homecoming weekend, they are celebrating, and then one of the greatest homecoming kings and queens to Bayside ever walks in Zach and Kelly. We get a classic four back together again. What this episode does more so than anything is live in nostalgia. So we got the classic theme. We get a classic intro back into a scene with the theme music, and then you get like a brighter shot inside the principal's office when you finally get there. A lot of cues and cuts and things to kind of make it feel like the original episode while also still building. And then we can get a freeze frame thing that feels odd in juxtaposition with the rest of the stuff, but it's fun to kind of get that back for once. So what happens the first time that we see the four, Jesse, Slater, Zach, and Kelly on screen together? They are having a hard time reconnecting. They go over some old school stuff and kind of reminisce. But Slater's like, hey, what's happening now? And outside of taking it very dark, they really don't have much to kind of talk about. And it seems like they're competing with each other like they always used to do back in the day. So, in the main story, the original four are having a hard time reconnecting. So, what they decide to do is dig up an old time capsule. And this old time capsule, they both think of it pretty much at the same time, both sets. And they decide to go dig it up, and it brings back some great memories. And then some terrible ones as well. So while they're in the office and they're reminiscing and they're going over some greatest moments in Saved by the Bell history, there's a gift that young Zach gifted to Slater that is a prank. And when he opens it up, this green spew just drenches him and flies all over him. And so they get upset with each other. Zach says, hey, that's the 18-year-old version of myself giving that to you, not so much me. Slater doesn't see it that way, and they all kind of start getting tit for tat. Dr. Spanier actually starts questioning the doctor of whatever the heck Kelly is, and they get into a bit of a tit for tat and calling each other selfish. While they're doing that, Ron, the principal, comes in, and he calls them all selfish because for all of these years, he has been hiding in plain sight as he has been a friend or someone that has been a classmate to this gang for all this time, and none of them recognize. AC's been there for 15 years. He was hoping that he would recognize him. Jesse joined later. He was hoping that he would recognize him. He was hoping that if you put you put Zach and Kelly back in with the rest of the group, that maybe, just maybe, it might trigger something that they start remembering him again. But no one has any idea of what the heck Ron's talking about or who the heck he is. Sorry, Toddman, we don't know who you are. And so they start feeling bad about themselves. They start wondering if they're doing things correct. Or like, are they bad people because they don't remember him? And then they call an old friend, and we get a call. We get to call Lisa Turtle, who is living her best life in Paris. She got a bunch of men in her bedroom waiting on her. She's fashion designing. She's in Paris. She's just living the life. She's doing what Lisa Turtle is supposed to be doing. And they ask her straight up, it's like, hey, do you remember this kid named Ron Todman? And she's like, yeah, she saved your life once, Jesse. And they're like, oh crap, really, we really suck. Um, and so they come into this conclusion that they really suck, and they start going down memory lane of other places that he may have been, which is a fun. It's like a Back to the Future moment of like the greatest hits of Some Saved by the Bell, but you can clearly tell that they placed the Ron in there, but it's still funny. We see the wedding next to his college RA. We see Kelly trying to get a joint um, in that famous episode. We see all of those, some of the greatest hits, and we kind of go back through all of that, and we see that oh yeah, he has always been around, and they may have messed up. So they come up with an idea to sort of make him feel one of the team again. Before we go into that, let's talk about the side story, the B story that's happening. Mac is feeling a little gun shy with coming up with a prank for this homecoming. And it is Devontae who tells him that he's having these issues because he's having daddy issues, because his dad's never really around, and it's clear that Mac wants to spend more time with Zach and gets to know him a little bit more, but he's just afraid to tell him that. And Devontae sort of calls him out on that, while Devontae is also having issues with how to approach a woman. And Mac comes up with the idea of how he's going to trigger or get this great prank is to prank his dad while they're taking the high school alumni photo. He's got this brown goo above his head that he's going to have dump on Zach and get his comeuppance and show his dad that he can't come up with a prank and I guess be in the same league as his dad. I'm not sure why trashing your dad gets you closer to your dad or what his thought process is there, but that's where he's at. And so the idea that Zach has that's just it's a made my heart smile is that we see the Zach Attack band. We see Zach, Kelly, Jesse, and Slater all dressed up in that attire, and they're singing "Friends Forever." If you told me that I was going to get "Friends Forever" in this, I'd call you a liar. But man, there it is. It made me feel good. Get "Friends Forever," and they're singing it, and I know it word for word. I'm living it. I'm like, yes, it's my best life. Give it back to me. Problem is, if you actually remember that episode, that occurred when they became this big rock band inside of Zach's dream. So there's a bit of a meta thing that's happening here in that Ron is just staring at them like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about or what you're singing. And then Zach breaks he doesn't break the fourth wall because that's no longer his power and he doesn't say it to the audience. But he's talking out loud and saying that, yo, the reason he doesn't know this is because this happened in my dream. Which then questions why everybody else is dressed up and knows it, but he may have said something to them. But it's still funny in that one of the biggest parts that exists in Saved by the Bell history, something that exists only in the mind of Zach Morris. So I say all that to say that the setup was for them to then take a photo, the yearbook photo, alumni photo with Ron. Ron's like, screw it, just get out the way, let's just do this photo. Zach gives up his space that he was at where the trap was to move back and put Ron in that spot. And Mac hits the trap, and it lands on Ron. Instead of being upset, he thinks and he believes that the gang had this long, elaborate plan to set him up so that they did always know that he was there and around, and this was their way of saying, you're one of the family. It's a long road to get there. Shows you how much he really wanted to be accepting, and they, being the great the great gang that they are, say, yeah, no, we always knew you were around. We were just playing the long con. You were playing the long thing. It's a bit of a devious way to do it, but it's probably the best thing to do to make him feel welcomed and loved and seen. So while it's a devious way to get there, it's a well done thing. Directly after that, Zach goes up to Mac and says, "Hey, yo, that's a good prank," and then is about to just leave, and Mac gets that look from Devontae like, yo, this is the time. Now you do it. He finally does and tells his dad that he just wants to spend more time with him. He wants to get to know him more. And Zach agrees. And they seem like they're going to be on the path for healing. Because of that, Devontae then asks this girl that he's macking on. It sounds weird with Mac's name being Mac. This girl that he's spitting game to out, and they kind of get close to. So that's the main story. There is a C story that's been happening throughout the entire episode. I'm leaving it to the end because it sort of is the button that bleeds into what I believe the next episode will be about. So Lexi and Daisy have been doing fundraising, um, and they come up with this idea to get money from all the rich donors at the homecoming dance, rich old white dudes for the most part. um, and Lexi is using the style of being very um, passive and complimentary and saying, "Hey, could you do this?" and being super sweet. Daisy's like, "Why the hell are we pitying and babying ourselves to these rich old white folks? Guilt seems to work better when you're a person of color, or to get it done." So she's just aggressive with it, and she's getting money hand over fist. Leads to the button of the episode in that the original organization that Jane, who you may remember as being the Karen, the mother to Tanner the critic earlier in the season, she's back and she says the organization that we were going to give it to is great, and eventually we'll get back to that. But we've made so much money that we're going to divert focus, and spend this money on reopening Douglas High. So just when I was starting to get to love this gang together, there's sadly a chance that they may break up, and that's where this episode ends. So there's not really anything that is emotionally hitting in some of the other episodes that happened before this. So outside of Kelly telling Jesse that it's clear that Slater still loves her, and Zach and Mac having some type of connection, it's sort of a fluffy episode until that button that hits you at the end that sets you up on what is probably bound to come for the next two episodes. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. If you haven't, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI, or you can leave us an email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt at gmail.com. We also have a podcast that of the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.